Hey everybody, welcome back to the Anti-Media Radio Show once again with your host Nick Bernabe here on UCY.tv and the antimedia.org/radio. I'm really happy to be back alive and well on this Monday, July 31st, 2017, the most interesting and corrupt times in modern history. And you know what? We've got the tools and the access now to do something about it. So we're going to be talking about that tonight. There's so much news going on. I mean, I don't know how many times I have to say this, but this is unlike any other time since I've been following, the news and politics and all that garbage. It's gained a lot of momentum. The pace is much faster. It's not just Donald Trump. There's a lot of different things going on. The bigger story here, and this is the last thing we touched on Wednesday's show, is the decline of the United States is accelerating, and the rise of rivals is encroaching. And I think that has a lot to do with a lot of the stuff going on around the world, and with North Korea just not even afraid of us anymore at this point, because they're just basically like, well, what are you going to do? What are you guys going to do? You can't even win in Iraq. You can't even win in Iraq, and you've gone there and fought twice. You've been having armies there for how many years now? You guys can't even win. Nobody's got respect for the United States anymore, and can you blame them? I don't think you can, because we've become ineffectual because we're not honest about our intentions. We pretend like we're going around the world with good intentions. Did you guys see the press conference today? They're talking about Venezuela, and they're like, oh, we can't believe Venezuela has gotten this bad. We can't believe that their president is undermining their democracy. We have to do something about this. We're going to put sanctions and stuff. The same people are supporting Saudi Arabia. How can they give a shit about Venezuela's democracy when they're supporting a theocracy in Saudi Arabia? It doesn't make sense. You can't do both of those at the same time. You can't say, oh, we care about democracy, but we also care about theocracy, and we're going to totally arm Saudi Arabia to the teeth and let them go around committing genocide against their neighbors and just look the other way, or actually help them do it. And then at the same time say, oh, well, we can't believe Venezuela is holding unfair elections. That's just unacceptable. We got to do something about this. Bullshit. Bullshit. Total bullshit. That being said, let me introduce my awesome panel tonight, because I'm really lucky to have these really smart dudes helping me, break through all this information. Because, like I said, there's just so much to cover. There's so much ground to cover. Like if you were to sit there and watch CNN all day, you'd probably go crazy, because there's just so much information. It's literally an information overload, to the point where people just throw their hands up in the air and say, you know what, screw it. Like, there's nothing I can do about it. Like, it's easy to get overwhelmed by this and want to give up. Especially for people who are activists, which, most of our audience I know are activists, or they're definitely sympathetic to the cause of many activists, and they actually give a shit about what's going on, unlike many people in the United States who probably aren't even aware of what the hell is happening. It can be very disheartening to see the state of affairs. The police brutality. The most recent one was that guy strapped into that chair, and they just kept electrocuting him. Those three, whatever you want to call them, some type of cops, correctional officers, prison guards. I don't know what they were exactly. They had this dude strapped into a chair. It turns out he was a teenager. Last I heard, he was in jail over weed charges. They had him strapped into a chair, and they're just electrocuting him for like 30 seconds at a time. They almost killed the guy. And luckily he survived, and now he's suing, so the video came out. And, hopefully the guy becomes a millionaire. But you know what? The money isn't going to come out of the cop's pocket. We're going to pay for it. Whoever lives in the city where that guy was electrocuted, you guys are going to pay for it. Anyway, let me introduce my panel. I got the awesome DB Schwartz on the line. What's up, dude?
I was just going to say, before I forget it, is what Philandro Castile's mother was talking about doing with some of her money was basically hiring a private eye for the next decade to follow around Yanez And I can understand that's her way of getting revenge, and maybe that's what needs to happen when people get payouts, to prevent these guys thinking they're invincible and they can go get a job in another department. If she's hiring a guy on retainer for $50,000 a year because she's got $2 million now to follow around Yanez for the next decade, and trust me, on $2 million you make like 50,000. Shit, you probably make 200,000 a year off of that if you invest it right. So $50,000 a year ain't nothing to her. So what I'm trying to say is people need to become creative and use the state against itself, because these servants to the state are servants to the royalty that rule you, and they'll never be for you. And we need to hit back at them first. They're the first line of defense, and they need to get broken down first before we go after the big fish.
Yeah, man, and it's just becoming ridiculous, dude. Like now I see videos every day, and I just get more angry and more angry. And I know it's not good. I don't want to be super angry at the cops, but now, after seeing what they've been doing, and I don't.
But that's all you got to do, Nick. Just the people that are personally affected. When you get paid, use your money to take these people away from society. This guy's going to be looking over his shoulder about everything he does for the next 10 years. That's what she said. I will hire somebody for a decade to follow you, Yanez, everywhere you go, even if you move to a different state. So that's what people need to do with these payouts. Get these guys off the streets. Get back at them. Make it seem so that these guys aren't invincible, because they are at this point if people don't do anything.
Yeah. And, the laws on the books, and just, everybody's seen it, after Ferguson, after Mike Brown, Eric Garner, all the high profile police brutality cases. Part of the reason why it got so big was because people rioted after the fact when they didn't hold these guys accountable. When they didn't do shit about these assholes killing unarmed people. The most obvious one, the most cut and dry one was Eric Garner. I mean, they choked that guy out. They killed him right there in the street. He's told them, I can't breathe. They killed him for selling a cigarette, or selling loose cigarettes. It was on video. The only guy that went to jail for that was the guy that was taking the video.
And they tried to kill him. And Nick, has there been a follow-up with him? Because they put rat poison in his food. I know that.
Yeah, I heard about that. I don't know the follow-up on that, but I know the guy, I think he's still in jail, actually. They charged him on something, parole violation, something like that. So the culture is being, we're witnessing a culture of opaqueness, I guess you could say. No transparency, no accountability. And every incident like this just makes it worse and worse and worse. And then you got Trump. You got President Donald Trump out there just a few days ago, encouraging the cops to be more rough with people. Like, what alternate universe is this idiot living in where the cops in the United States aren't bad enough at beating people up? Like, what in the world is going on? It's unbelievable. It's like an alternate universe that we're living in. It's almost like the Mandela effect is real. Jake Anderson joining us, awesome journalist with the Anti-Media. What's up, dude? What do you think about this, man? Did you hear Trump's comments on the police? I mean, I was like thrown back. I was like, look, at this point, I'm not surprised by very many things, especially when it comes to Trump and the crazy things he says and the crazy characters he's got in his administration. And of course, the mooch dude, the press secretary dude, was fired today after only being on the job for 11 days. I'm not surprised by too many things now with Trump, but him calling for more police brutality, that blew me back, dude. I mean, Jake, what do you think about that, dude?
Yeah, I mean, nothing really surprises me with him anymore. I mean, and he's been very open from day one of his campaign that he was a total, totally loved the police, was going to do everything he could to restore respect and power back to the police as if they had lost it. As if we hadn't just spent the last 2 decades militarizing the police. Trump feels like the policemen's feelings have been hurt. So, he made a little off-the-cuff remark about how you should take your hand off of their head when you're putting them in the back of the car, or something to intimate that they should rough people up a little bit more. He's just clueless. I mean, on social issues. I mean, let's give him some credit. He figured out how to create a marketing strategy to make racism herald him in as president, which is, I mean, pretty unprecedented what he did. But I would call it more sadistic than genius. But but I feel you, man, about the information overload right now, because I'm trying to write articles, and I'm behind on that. I'm trying to make a documentary. I'm behind on that. Someone else wants me to team up on some crazy case out here in Oregon. Have you heard of the Tiffany Jenks case? I know, I'm sure DB has. Yeah, but the guy, John Kaplan, the guy who's involved in the case, he's interested in working with me on it. So I'm just overloaded every moment of the day, and it doesn't help to have the bullshit that the mainstream media is trying to shove down our throats all the time, trying to scare up this new Cold War, which can't be good. Putin has now barred 750 diplomats. I mean, it's not a good thing.
755 diplomats expelled from Russia.
That's not a good thing. And just the rhetoric between all the major powers is intensifying. And God, I'll be damned, but it feels like we're headed on a collision course with another big world event that's going to be very, very ugly. Probably even more ugly than 9/11. It feels like we're headed towards that.
Yeah. I think you're right, dude. And this whole thing with Russia and the United States, which we were, at least I know some people held out hope. I never liked Trump. I've never once praised Donald Trump on any in any way as far as trying to get him elected. There have been several things he's said where I'm like, cool, like I'm glad Donald Trump said that. And then 5 minutes later, he said something so stupid that it just, wiped the whole slate clean. But many people thought that Donald Trump was going to come in and at least ease tensions with Russia. And that, unfortunately, is not the case. And I'm not sure that I can fully blame Trump on this, but the Congress has recently just sent a bill to his desk where only 2 senators voted against it. That was actually Bernie Sanders and Rand Paul. And you guys all know those are the two main people in Senate who we have somewhat of a soft spot for here at the Anti-Media, because at least they're right on some things. I'm not going to say I agree with Rand Paul.
I looked into this pretty good, Nick, and yeah, man. In the House it passed with only 3 people voting against it. Senate only 2, Sanders, Paul, and then what it does is it strikes sanctions on Russia and Iran and North Korea all at the same time. And there's a 30-day congressional oversight, so basically, like, the POTUS can't veto it, which is kind of weird because what they're trying to do is both parties are saying that a Trump presidency is not preferable to World War III. So if anybody out there is listening right now, both Democrats and Republicans have declared war on 3 countries that we're going to have a really hard time fighting against. And if China piles on, we're going to lose. And if we lose, the people on the coasts are going to die. I hate to say that, Nick, because I know you and Jake live there, but let's ramp this down like we prevented the war on Syria, and this is way more important than that.
Yeah, dude.
It's so scary, man. That's scary. I don't want to die. I don't want to die, DB.
Oh. Well, you're on the coast, man, and I hate to say it, but America's is not invincible. We're impregnable. We can't be invaded because they'd have to bomb all the farmlands, and then that would be pointless to invade us. But the coasts, they'll hit because we know that they have in the past when we've been in World War, and they'll do it again.
Whatever, dude. They're gonna hit Minnesota. That's where they're gonna hit.
Let's not be silly here, Jake. We're perfectly fine.
Yeah. So the only thing apparently that Congress can agree on, because they all disagree on healthcare, they disagree on supposedly they disagree on everything. 99% of the Congress agreed that they want to place acts of war against Russia.
They must have access to a bunker. I mean, what do you guys think?
It's insane.
It's this is part of this the death rattle, and it's like it's. I truly just think that it's war is the greatest moneymaker, and they are just gonna just milk every war they possibly can. That was the plan. That was what Project for a New American Century outlined. And if you go look at that chart of countries, they've gone through and they've switched out a few, but for the most part, they've methodically gone through and gone to war with all those countries that were listed. And
so Trump was a final distraction, because what he did was he gave the patriots in this country who are armed to the teeth this false hope while we go to a World War III scenario, and they're okay with that. It was either that or a civil war that they wouldn't win. So at least now they can exchange nukes and depop, right, Jake?
I don't know. The entire Trump presidency makes me think we're off script. I've tried a million different ways to stitch together what. I mean, there's no way they could have predicted. There's no way they could have said last year, okay, we're gonna get Donald Trump elected president. Like, there's no way you can force something like that to happen. He was an accidental president.
So out there. And that's
we're off script, and the chaos is building because you have not only do you have us basically doing Cold War rhetoric with two other major countries, we have essentially a soft civil war going on in our own government right now.
Yeah,
and it's preferable to the alternative, in my opinion. Still,
the thing that is pretty obvious to me is the fact that Congress is so bipartisan on this, and they've already set up the propaganda about Russia and Trump colluding, be it false or be it true. It doesn't really matter either way. If Trump were to veto this bill, he can't. He literally can't veto this. Because it would be the end of him.
It'd be awesome if he did, though.
He can't. There's not a way to do it.
It's a sanction bill against Russia. Trump cannot veto this.
Why?
Because it would be politically suicidal, even more than it would be kamikaze style. Like it's it's not going to happen.
You can't side with 5 people. I mean, unless he's going to pull a night of the long knives, and overnight a bunch of people just have heart attacks.
Yeah, no, I seriously doubt that. So
I mean, is McCain the first of many? That's what I wonder.
So the thing is that Trump is basically, whether he wants to or not, he's marching us down the path to conflict with Russia, and we've been close to conflict with them for a good amount of time. Because they're probably the only ones willing to openly go against U.S. hegemony and actually throw troops out there and put them in the way. And that's what they've done in Syria with the Air Force, and they've got advisors on the ground. I think the reason why the people who run the United States are so upset with Russia is that they genuinely aren't willing to just go along with what the U.S. says because they're afraid of us. It seems to me like Putin actually isn't that afraid, and maybe he's got reason to be right on that, because we talked about this last show as well. The United States is not what it was in the 90s. Like we don't have the ability to project ourselves.
Isn't Portland like the 90s still, though, Jake?
It still is out there, right?
The dream of the 90s is still alive.
So,
I mean, do you know the names of the chickens you eat? That's all I want to know.
No, I don't know.
So, like, it seems to me like Russia, North Korea, Iran, and now China, they're all starting to say, you know what? We don't really have to do what you guys say anymore because you're not that strong anymore. You guys messed up. You overextended yourselves. You spent money where you shouldn't have. And this was the big point I made on Wednesday. China spent $1 trillion creating the infrastructure to connect the economies all the way from the southern tip of Africa to the western edge of Europe to China. And the United States created the F-35 with the same amount of money.
Yeah, but they ruined the environment, Nick.
Yeah, dude. So it didn't have to be this way. It didn't. I think we could have peacefully been equals with China and said, you know what, we're going to be nice to each other, we're going to respect each other, we're not going to step on each other's toes, and we're not going to let each other abuse other countries around the world. And that we could have had a nice little, ecosystem where the U.S. and China coexist as two equal powers that basically hold influence over everybody else. But the U.S., I think, I don't know, out of ambition, out of short-sightedness, or maybe some crazy people up there just doing this on purpose, I don't know. But we've overextended, we've overspent, we've bankrupted our working class, we lost all of our manufacturing. Like, we did a bunch of we made a bunch of missteps, and it's going to cost us, greatly. China is going to be more powerful than the United States in the next 10 years, and I don't mean it in just they're going to have a stronger economy. They're also going to be able to, challenge us militarily by then. Because they've got all the manufacturing base. They could make 100,000 tanks probably in a year. So the U.S. has misstepped, and now these lunatics in charge they've grown so frustrated, I guess, because what they've been trying to do has been failing. And especially if you look at Syria, I mean, we have an article up on the Anti-Media from late last week from our Middle Eastern analyst, Darius, where it basically was showing that the United States is pretty much we're done in Syria. We've lost. We've already basically capitulated. The ending of that CIA program was basically it. It was basically, okay, we're done. We lost. We didn't do what we weren't able to accomplish what we were trying to accomplish, which was regime change in Syria by other means. They weren't able to be honest about it, and so they couldn't do it. So, it's the weakness is already showing there. The fact that we couldn't do Syria, the fact that we couldn't hold Iraq, we've never won Afghanistan. Afghanistan, we can't even claim victory there. I mean,
the fact that the Taliban is still a major,
a study just came out.
But it's a win for Big Pharma, though. Come on.
Get this. A study just came out from one of these think tanks that showed the Taliban has about 60,000 fighters still. 60,000. That's a huge force.
What are they guarding?
I think it may actually be
the opium fields.
650,000.
All I want to know is, are those fighters guarding the opium fields? Because if so, that's a win.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the most sinister connections. There is what the hell is going on with these opium fields, and then us having an opium epidemic here?
It's just too profitable. I mean,
it's definitely not an accident.
If you were a guy in the Taliban that you made $1,200 a year, and they're all, hey, we're going to give you $20,000 to guard this field until crops come, and then you can just take off with that money. Well, there you go. That's the opium trade right now.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it is a huge coincidence that while we're over there in Afghanistan, the opium production has ballooned from almost being eradicated in 2001 to being higher now than it's ever been. And then at the same time, everyone's talking about this opium epidemic. Nobody asks where it's coming from, right? You always say, oh, yeah, the opium problem, and yeah, we got to do something about it, and we got to have clinics, and we got to, get the doctors to stop prescribing it so much. We need, the life-saving overdose drugs and Narcan or whatever it's called. But you never hear anybody saying, yeah, but where's all this opium coming from, by the way? Where are all these opiate pills coming from?
Maybe it's not a coincidence.
Maybe it's not a coincidence that we're over there in Afghanistan occupying the country with literally there's no goal in sight. What is the goal?
It's almost like the opium war was reversed, almost like we lost World War II. I mean, what the hell?
I mean, are these guys really going over there? I mean, it seems like this is what's happening. That these crazy lunatics are putting us in war, killing innocent people. You remember the one they dropped? They just dropped that Moab over there in Afghanistan, the mother of all bombs.
Yeah.
Like, they're dropping munitions like that.
Hey, that's nothing compared to white phosphorus, though, Nick.
Yeah, but the whole point is for pharmaceutical companies to be able to manufacture a shitload of opiates. And I didn't believe it, dude. I had a military veteran friend. I don't want to give out who it is or anything. That told me that they would go in there to the fields, and the military would capture the opium fields. The army guys would capture it, but they wouldn't destroy it. They'd capture it, and then they'd call in special ops, and special ops would come in. The army guys would leave, and they'd never go back that way again. So the army would
Did they at least get to use any of the fucking opiates?
I'm sure a lot of these guys did some heroin while they're out there. But the military guys who are paid like shit and treated like shit when they come back, when they get out of the military, and all the veterans and stuff, they go in and do all the dirty work. They fight, they secure the fields, and then they secure it, and they call in black ops or special ops dudes, and then they march them off into another direction, never to come back. And the fields, according to what I've been told, the army guys would never see the fields get shut down, burned down, or anything like that. So I mean, they use our military guys to go in, fight an unjust war for, mostly, I guess, for securing resources over there, including the opium. And then they privatize the rest of it, dude. Like they do that, and then they say, okay, let's bring in this pharmaceutical company so that they could kind of reap all the crop of the opium. And it's crazy, dude.
It's the final transfer of wealth, Nick. It's like that. Okay, so here's my thing. If everybody's getting sick, even people we know in the 30s and 40s now are getting sick and cancer and stuff, right? And everybody's getting ill because our environment's toxic, and that's just a fact. And the people that are in their 80s and 90s now, even they're getting hit now with these onset cancers late in life. And what's going on now is you're getting your entire life, everything you've worked for is not being transferred down anymore. It's going to hospice care and nursing homes and end of life expenses. And a lot of that is the opiate industry, because they're basically leaving you strung out for like a decade while you die slow in some nursing home. And just keeping you alive while they just drain you out.
It's a good point, man. But it's also, it's not just. I mean, part of the epidemic is that doctors are just prescribing these to anyone. And I know firsthand. I can testify. I was able to get a prescription to Vicodin, a fucking massive prescription, for like 3 years by just saying that I had a pinched nerve. They weren't testing anything. And I was just getting it, and this is happening all across the country. Is it unreasonable to think that the government has an invested interest in getting us addicted to drugs so that we don't question their power, while at the same time the corporations make a shitload of money off of us? That, to me,
a government that would do that is a government that would accept Nazis at the end of World War II and take them over and put them into leadership roles. And a government like that is a government that would experiment on black men in Tuskegee 100 years after they were free. I mean,
paperclip in Tuskegee, absolutely, man.
Yeah,
Our government is sinister. They will kill us. They will hurt you, and people seem unwilling to accept this basic fact.
Yeah, I mean, if they're willing to do things that are documented already in historical fact in the National Archives, I mean, even the government admits they did these things, then why are things like chemtrails so hard to grasp that they would be spraying us like bugs? Why wouldn't they?
I say we look at the even more provable one first, which, I mean, in this case, it's, I mean, outright poisoning us. There's with opiates.
You mean Roundup is a drying agent, which just came out in a report that even crops that are being designated as non-GMO, meaning not genetically modified, are still having Roundup put on them right before they're pulled because it's a drying agent. So you're eating straight up Roundup whenever you eat wheat that's not organic.
Well,
so
you're
not actually buying organic.
Yeah, I mean, there's a system of sickness going on here. It's very disturbing.
Yeah, dude. I mean,
farmers don't even eat their own crops up here.
These guys are the ultimate drug dealers. Like, they send in the army to go, knock over countries to get the drugs, and then they sell it to us with Obamacare. They pass huge legislation. They socialize the drug dealing. They force every single person living in the United States to pay for the drug industry with it.
But Obamacare is not socialized healthcare.
It's not. It's definitely not. It's definitely not. But
it's forced mandatory insurance in a monopoly market. There's not even a free market.
You know what it is? It's like mandatory capitalism, basically. It's like everybody has to buy it.
It's mandatory monopolism, though, Nick, because I can't buy like Blue Cross from California if it was cheaper. I have to buy one of like 3 or 4 providers only here. That's bullshit.
Hey, Donald Trump was going to fix that shit. I heard him repeat that shit in the goddamn debates. How many times?
Well, if they would just implode Obamacare and go to like the free market or something.
Let him cross state lines and it'll lower the price. He's probably actually right on that, except now he's in office and he's not doing shit.
Nobody's going to do shit because the money's too much, man. Like, I pay $4,000 a year for insurance and I don't even go to the doctor. Like, it's a money machine. It's so much money.
Yeah. So yeah, we're all forced to pay for the drug trade. They've professionalized. They're like, you know what? These cartels are fucking amateurs, dude. We got this. Send the damn army into Afghanistan. We'll take the crop so we don't got to pay for it.
And it's bullshit because we could grow pot in our basement. That's better and better for us. And actually might even heal us. There's a few studies that are showing that basically what pot helps do is it produces an environment where cancer does not thrive within the body. So people have been saying, it cures it. Well, it's part of it because what it does is it helps de-acidify your body, but it doesn't cure cancer. Cancer thrives in acidic environments, and that's what we're seeing all over America right now. If you don't have a water filter for your home, I'm not talking about a Brita, but I'm talking about a real reverse osmosis under your sink filter, then you're drinking between 6 to 8 cancer-causing poisons every single day. I just looked online. It's an epidemic.
There was a study just came out I don't know, less than a week ago about how there's a bunch of cancer-causing elements in the majority of drinking water in the United States.
I used to have one of those reverse osmosis things on there, but I haven't used it for a while. I guess
They're amazing, Jake.
I'm a goner, dude.
They're amazing. I mean, get one. Just buy one. They're $400, but how much do we spend on bottled water?
No, I'm going to get one. But to your point on the marijuana and cancer, I mean, at the very least, marijuana would be such a better way for people to manage pain and depression than, say, alcohol and Vicodin, or fentanyl, or hydrocodone, oxycodone. So, I mean, this is old news. Everyone knows, the war on marijuana is,
even post-surgery, they used to use it.
Yeah, I mean, the war on drugs has become a total joke. Did you guys see the article we put up today? It's our most viral article of the day. NYPD posted the most pathetic drug bust ever, and the internet is having a field day.
That was hilarious.
$100.
It's pathetic.
$100, and I don't know. That looks like maybe an ounce and a half of weed and 3 vape cartridges. It's like, dude.
Oh, yeah.
They're clueless. They don't get it. They just don't even understand how removed they are from.
They just ruined a cancer patient's day for sure.
Yeah. And in fact, one of the tweets that we put in the article said that. I mean, it's a joke. It's a joke. And everybody knows it except for the dumb idiots that choose to continue enforcing these lame-ass laws. Like,
Jake or Nick,
gets me. That's what gets me.
Do either of you know those 20 studies they did with where they came up with why cannabis should be made illegal? Like where they were strapping baboons to pot and just putting them into like masks for like 90 minutes straight.
What the hell?
That's why pot was made illegal. Like even medical doctors said this is an amazing like form of medicine, especially in liquid form. Like it can stop seizures. If somebody's having surgery in the field, we can give them that while they're getting like a surgery done if we don't have a way to knock them out, and they would have more chance to survive. So basically, soldiers since the 20s have probably died in the field because we didn't have cannabis oil. And because of these studies that were done in the 20s where they literally strapped baboons to masks and pumped pot into their lungs for 90 minutes straight. And what do you think that did to the baboon? Do you think he got a little fucking crazy?
Yeah,
I
dude.
mean, they went through a lot of pizza that night.
Yeah,
Dude.
This is the phony science they use to push the agenda on us.
That just makes me feel sad. I mean, I'm sure the first 5 minutes of it were fine, but...
Dude, the baboon eventually went insane, but I mean, is that maybe because of oxygen deprivation to his brain?
Dude, he probably had like toxicity in his blood from breathing in so much damn smoke. It was probably more smoke inhalation than anything. You know what I mean? So yeah, man. I mean, it's totally.
What are we doing? What? We are such sick bastards.
The war on drugs is just such bullshit. And at the same time, again, going back to the whole Afghanistan thing, we're still there. We got Bin Laden supposedly, which that even the whole Bin Laden thing it sounds made up. I mean, there's probably something here or something to it. I don't want to get down that rabbit hole, but the whole thing just sounds fishy. They buried him at sea. There's very little video of what went on. The photos look all weird. Whatever. We got Bin Laden. What are we doing there? Why are we still there? Like, there is literally no end goal. There's no end goal. The guy that we had put in power was a brother of a drug lord. Like, the president, Karzai, he's a brother of a damn drug lord. Like, what are we doing over there? Like, we're not trying to win. We're not trying if we're trying to beat the Taliban, it's not working because they still control huge portions of the area. Terrorism, ISIS is there now. Like, terrorism has gotten worse. It's gotten worse. Every day I see stories of some suicide attack in Afghanistan. Dude, it's the saddest shit in the world. None of that stuff needed to be happening. None of it needs to be happening right now. There's suicide attacks almost every day over there because of us. And our backwards, let's just say dishonest foreign policy.
Nick, what do Jesus and Osama bin Laden have in common?
I don't know what.
I don't know either. I just wanted to ask that question.
They both resurrected in a cave?
Yeah, they both lived in a cave for...
I think they're both used ideologically as tools to control the population.
Yeah. There's some
How dare you? How dare you slander Jesus like that, Nick?
There's a little truth to it, but...
Nick, Jake.
Emotional manipulation by attaching religious fundamentalism, dude. It's
I'm just trying to scare off any listeners we still have.
Hey,
you know what I was...
Speaking of holy men going down, Joe Arpaio.
Oh yeah, he's gonna go to jail supposedly. We'll see. You guys seen The Handmaid's Tale yet? You heard about it? Anything?
Yeah.
Is that with Mia Khalifa?
I don't know. I don't think so, but maybe.
It's based on the sci-fi dystopian novel, but it's a show.
I never read the book, but
I didn't either.
I was recommended the show. I started watching it, and it's about how they use a group in the United States use religious fundamentalism to kind of take over, using emotional manipulation, blame it using terrorism and stuff like that as an excuse to take over in a way that was like religious fundamentalism, very like alt-rightish. Actually, that's what was pretty interesting. I guess maybe the timing of the show and all that. It was very like it's almost like an alt-right utopia.
Yeah.
Everyone, it's like super religious, and everyone has a role in society, and very very much a religious dystopia. But it's kind of like I guess you would call it like a Christian Sharia type of dystopian, where religious fundamentals took over by taking advantage of like terror attacks or whatever. And so it is pretty interesting with Trump, and now I've been seeing more and more stuff about Pence about how he's like preparing for to take over for Trump, because I guess there's some chatter going on that Trump is going to step down, he's going to be impeached, something's going to one way or another. Pence is their preparations being made for Pence to take over, and this is where like when we start getting into this conversation is when I start saying, okay, maybe Trump isn't so bad. I mean, Trump is.
Please stop,
ridiculous.
You freaking liberals on the fucking far left with the impeachment. You really want Pence, you idiots.
Exactly, dude. I mean, Pence seems worse than Trump. I mean, Trump.
That's not the.
They want you to want Trump gone.
It's a centrist left. It's the Hillary people that want Trump impeached. The far
left. And by
left.
the way, Hillary's running for mayor of New York. By the way.
Oh God.
Yeah,
they cannot get rid of her.
Maybe
and Chelsea is going to be her chief of fucking staff.
You know what that means? More bus.
New York City is. If you own any property in New York City, you better sell.
No, it's gonna be more drug busts like that one in the NYPD today.
More taxes for the good of society. 60% income tax.
I'm with her. Yeah, dude. Trump is worse. Pence is worse than Trump, dude. I think like Jake said, it's the center left, the American center left, which is actually kind of. I don't know where you'd place them, but the politics in this country are kind of the neoliberals and the neocons basically agree on many, many issues, and they disagree on just a handful of social issues, and that's really the only difference. Otherwise, I don't think we really have mainstream politics. It's not really left or right or anything. It's just empire politics. It's empire politics with a little bit of one party wants a little bit of social justice, and the other party wants a little bit of economic freedom. And that's it. They agree on all the authoritarianism. They agree on the cops. They agree on the empire. They agree on the foreign policy. I mean, look at the sanctions. 99% of Congress agree on sanctions against Russia, Iran, and North Korea. When have you ever heard of 99% of Congress agreeing on anything? Anything. Yeah. So, I mean, this is a bipartisan.
You mean 99% of them agree on war with 3 countries at the same time? Hooray!
Yes. That's the only thing these assholes can agree on.
That's going to be tough, man.
A lot of other things, man. Like, there's a lot of issues the Democrats and Republicans are very similar on, and these short-sighted Democrats, Hillary Clinton Democrats, that were, like, still, like, oh, my God, I can't believe Russia lost the election for us. Like, They really believe that. It's like, okay, guys, you're really wanting to impeach Donald Trump, and you're really okay with getting Pence. Like, Pence is so bad. Like, the guy was okay with physical therapy to try to cure people from being gay. Like, that's
shock
the
therapy,
kind of
right?
process that this guy is okay with.
Well, the perspective on Trump
he's going to give you the shocker.
A lot of people think Trump is an existential threat because of how mercurial and his temperament will cause us to get into a world war. What is myopic about that outlook is that it's overlooking the fact that we've been, hedging towards these dangerous kinds of world war politics for the last 16 years, and we've been alienating the rest of the world. So there's really, to me, what Trump is doing right now, I don't see him doing anything on the global stage that is more dangerous than what, say, Bush or, say, Clinton wanted to do, or what Pence would do. If Pence gets back in, you're just going to have the deep state back in control, and I think they're in control. I honestly think they're worried Trump is going to find something, and because he's so crazy, actually, like, if they try and impeach him, like, actually use, like, say proof of like a false flag or something like that, that he could actually, go down like that. And, that'd be awesome if he did. Wouldn't that be, man, that's a new thought.
I think Trump is going to just, he's going to, he's been falling in line the whole time, and he's still falling in line. That's one thing I wanted to bring up tonight.
We got a budget increase. Okay, Nick, what was our budget for last year for our defense? It was $606 billion.
Yeah.
So he just passed 698 billion. Can anybody compute what 92 billion dollars could do for this country?
Yeah. It's crazy. It's insane.
Anything if you're having a hard time in life right now, there you go. 92 billion would go a long way, wouldn't it?
And the thing is that I think what happened is, especially like after 9/11, the military industrial complex, I think during the Cold War, they kind of like, they're like, okay, we can be big, we can spend money, but we got to be a little smart with it, because we actually have, at the time, the USSR was thought of as a pretty big rival. I mean, the propaganda that was given to the public was that, oh, the USSR is like, the Red Scare and they're taking over the world and stuff. But privately speaking, the people, the intelligence community, they knew that the USSR wasn't as strong as the propaganda was telling us it was. Like, the USSR was a threat, a nuclear threat, a big threat. But the intelligence community knew that their economics were not looking nearly as good as what everyone was told, and they knew that they were much weaker than people thought they were. So they didn't overdo it. But after 9/11, I mean, just look at it. $1 trillion fucking dollars for a jet. $1 trillion. That's 1,000 billion.
What are we over? Are we over like 6 now for the whole thing?
For the F-35, dude. I mean,
but I mean, are we over 6 for the whole war over there now? 6 trillion.
Oh, the whole war on terror. I'm not sure, but it's in the trillions already. I don't know where we're at right now, but there's been projections that eventually it'll cost so much money, it's just ridiculous. These guys, I think they genuinely got too greedy. The military-industrial complex, the contractors, I mean, they're only human so far. They got too greedy, and they spent $1 trillion on a jet, and they spent all this money on the war on terror. I mean, look at all the hardware that the police got. I mean, how much did that stuff cost? All those MRAPs, all those Humvees, all that armor, all those guns, all those rocket launchers, all that shit they got, all the grenade launchers. All that stuff costs a lot of money, right? And anytime anyone tries to audit the Pentagon, it's like, okay, we're not going to let you get anywhere near it, but here's a few $1 trillion that we're kind of lost track of. But like, the money has been spent. These guys got too damn greedy, and they overspent the United States, and now we've overreached. And because of our dishonest foreign policy, where we're not just going, you know what, we're not owning up to our empire status. We're not saying, you know what, fuck it. Yeah, we're an empire. We're going to come take your shit. We'll take your oil. We'll take your opium. And that's just how it is. If the government were able to show that some people were going to get, the working class people were going to get a benefit from it, I think that people here in the U.S. would actually be like, yeah, hell yeah, let's do it. Let's go bomb those motherfuckers and take their shit. People would be okay with that. Those are the same kind of people that elected Donald Trump. But they're not. That's the problem. And so, I mean, that's not the only problem, but this is part of the problem, is that they can't be honest about their intentions in Syria and Libya and all these places where they've gone, in Afghanistan and Iraq. If they were honest and like, you know what, we're trying to secure these poppy fields so we can set up the opiate trade, so we can make all these drugs, make billions of dollars, and the people in the U.S. are going to benefit from it. Sure, the people here might be, yeah, screw it, dude, let's do it. But it's just they can't give out an honest, an honest agenda.
They need some ecstasy. The U.S. government needs to take some ecstasy.
Yeah, they just want to lie about it. And like today, and this is big, dude, because I seen those guys today, and they have the general up there. I think it was McMaster. He was up there talking about Venezuela, and dude, that dude did not look stable. Like, it looked like these guys are getting ready to do military action against Venezuela, dude. And I seen him up there talking today in the press conference, and they were just talking about, Venezuela had this election, and we don't think it was. We think it was illegitimate. It wasn't a good election. Not enough people voted. The turnout was suppressed and all that stuff, right? And they're talking about levying sanctions against, Venezuelan officials, including the president. And this, it seems like they're pretty damn serious about this. And so it's not only going on in the Middle East, but now it's going on over here. They want to take on a whole new front.
What a slap in the face to the people there too that are fighting for dignity and for food, literally. And it's just BS, man. For us to cause the chaos in the first place and then try to install a puppet.
And
I
Nick,
mean, I don't think they'll ever forgive us, this generation. And I mean, dude, if Southern America starts to hate us, then we're gonna really have a big problem.
Nick, didn't you note earlier on Facebook that more people voted percentage-wise, taking the conservative government number, more people voted in Venezuela than here in America in the 2016 election, right?
Yeah, and that's what was so ironic about the whole thing is that, only, I forget what the percentage was, I think 19%, about 19% of the entire population of the United States elected Donald Trump. 19%. If you include everybody, including the people that didn't vote, including the kids that are underage.
How many elected Obama for his second term? Percentage-wise.
Obama got 30% of the eligible voters, which also doesn't. I've never.
It was like 12%, wasn't it?
Obama, it was probably around the same. It was probably like 20% or so.
Yeah, I don't know. They're both horrible.
Venezuela had a 41% turnout, and the U.S. comes out today and they're like, we're putting sanctions on them because they only had a 41% turnout. It's like, wait, what? You guys got elected. Donald Trump famously actually got elected with didn't even win the popular vote, and he only had like 19% of the total turnout, which means the U.S. actually had a less turnout.
We'll see though when it's all said and done and they get through all this election fraud if Hillary even really won.
Yeah, I mean, still, and that's the funny thing too. That's the most ironic thing, is that we're going over there and we're telling them, hey, you guys aren't having democratic elections. It's like, wait, isn't Trump being accused of being propped up in this election by Russia? And weren't there many cases of election fraud? And wasn't there cases of Bernie Sanders getting screwed out in the elections? Like, and weren't there states that just canceled their primaries and just said, you know what, we're just going to pick our delegates? Like, dude, the United States really isn't in a position to go around telling other countries that they need to respect democracy while at the same time supporting Saudi Arabia. Like, Saudi Arabia is a theocracy. They got kings and shit. They got princes.
Not to mention the fact that we've subverted literally dozens and dozens of elections across the world.
In Chile, just around the corner from Venezuela, we famously backed a dictator in Chile that killed a bunch of people. So it's a bunch of hypocritical nonsense. And you know what?
Don't worry though. President Trump was just joking about police brutality, Jake. I mean, Nick. Well, both of you. That's what Sarah Huckabee Sanders says. So
Big Daddy Trump's going to come take care of you, DB.
Don't worry. If they keep saying it, you'll believe it, and you'll barely be able to believe what they're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
It's amazing.
So now here's the other thing too in Venezuela. The thing we don't want to forget: all governments, basically. I can't really name a modern government that's not like brand new. Like I could say, yeah, maybe Iceland is a little more of a government.
What about Bolivia? They're awesome.
Yeah, I mean, there are governments out there that are representative of their people, and they actually give a shit. Like I personally know enough about Iceland to say, yeah, they recently kicked out the bankers. They arrested the people responsible for the 2008 financial crisis. They kicked out the politicians. In fact, the biggest political party now in Iceland is the Pirate Party, which is very much a civil liberty oriented party. I can say Iceland has a decent government right now. I can't say, oh, in 100 years from now, they're still going to be good. They probably won't be. But the other thing to note with Venezuela, with North Korea, with Russia, Iran, everybody else, when we criticize U.S. policies, U.S. foreign policies, we're not saying, and I know for sure I'm not saying Venezuela is an awesome government. Venezuela is a shitty-ass government. I know people that have firsthand experience of dealing with what's going on in Venezuela, and it's not good. Food shortages of staple goods, shortages of commodities, that's all real. That's all real. Like, and the government is shit there, dude. They're ineffective. They're inefficient. They're wasteful. They've done a bunch of things that have kind of crippled the economy in ways. But at the same time, also to keep in mind, is the U.S. has also been placing sanctions, different types of embargoes, different types of subtle, subvertive foreign policy tools at our disposal to subvert the government as well. So what you have going on in Venezuela is a combination of a crappy government and sabotage going on from foreign powers, and what it's culminated in is a massive, horrible situation for the public of Venezuela. And the sad part of it is that actually is what they were. That's what the plan was. Like, that's what they do to foment revolutions, and that's why there's this uprising in Venezuela. Is because there's the perfect storm of bad government and subversive foreign influence. And it combines into making the situation we're seeing where people are starving, people are dying, there's like massive rioting. Compared to what we've seen recently in the U.S., it's like what we saw in Ferguson is nothing compared to what's going on in Venezuela. When they riot out there, 100 people die. That doesn't happen over here, at least not yet. So it's much more intense, much bigger of a problem, and we've had a role in it. And so we're responsible for it. And you know what? There's really not. There's no way to win. There's really no one there to root for, because if you're rooting for the government, it's like, okay, we're rooting for Maduro, and we hope that he wins. And then he can continue to basically mismanage the economy and continue to not do things correctly, where people are still starving and there's a shortage of basic goods like toilet paper and stuff. Or we can say, oh, you know what, we'll back the U.S. Doing a coup over there and put the CIA-backed dudes in charge, and then basically jack all their oil. It's like you can't support that either. So the only people left to support are just the people of Venezuela, man. Like. You got on one side a horrible government, people uprising against it. On the other side, you got CIA-backed influences in the uprising. All we can do is root for the people, because there's not really a side that we can choose and say, oh, we're with them. I mean, it's just a human issue. It's not
just be on humanity's side. You know what to do. You know what's right.
Everybody wants to politicize this and blame it on this and blame it on just foreign influence, blame it on socialism, blame it on the all these different things. Like it's not that clean cut. Venezuela is a very complicated situation, and really the only people we can root for, just like in Syria, is the people that are there on the ground. And just all we can hope for is peace, and that they'll have a better life soon. Because right now it's getting ugly, dude. And I wouldn't put it over the head of these guys to make it traction.
I'm on my clock like I told you. I'm doing this for dreams we pursuing, but call it a reality, cause there's no illusion. This is live through the stereo. Go and let it blow through the stereo. I'ma let them know through the stereo. Yo, here we go through the stereo. This is live through the stereo. Go and let it blow through the stereo. I'ma let them know through the stereo. Yo, here we go through the stereo.
You are listening